Thank you.
Brilliant.
Go.
So in terms of today's agenda, we're going to start with the basics. We're going to start with what is mentoring. We're going to make sure we all know the key definition that we're going to use of mentoring, and also the key differences between mentoring and coaching. There are some similarities, but there are some key differences as well. So I'm going to highlight what those are, just so we know what they are as we're going through this process. We're then going to go through the benefits of mentoring for both parties. So what you will hopefully get out of this as a mentor or a mentee, but also what the other party will get out of this as well. We'll go through the role of the mentor and the mentee as well. So what you can expect from the other party and what they can expect from you. And then as well as that, some potential pitfalls of mentoring. So some commonly made mistakes, and importantly, how you can avoid making those mistakes. So you're setting yourself up to be an effective mentor or mentee. We're going to then go through a quick guide to successful meetings. So what goes into a successful mentoring meeting, how you can make sure you're having successful meetings. And then finally, as mentioned a couple of times, I'm going to go through an overview of Pushfar's platform and some of the key functionality in terms of how you can navigate it and really make the most of that process. So getting us started in terms of the definition, what is a mentor? Well, the one sentence definition that we're going to use on this program is that a mentor is someone who shares their knowledge, skills, and/or experience to help another to develop and grow. So as mentors, you're all going to have that knowledge, that skill, the experience within the industry and within your career to really help the mentee to develop and grow and progress in their own career as a result of this. So mentoring happens every single day. It happens informally on an ad hoc basis. The wonderful thing about a mentoring program like this is you're formalizing that opportunity to learn from someone with experience. You're formalizing that with regular meetings where you can build up rapport over the period of time between now and November. In terms of mentoring, we often hear that mentoring is confused with coaching. And there are 4 key differences just to highlight at the start, just so you're aware of them and you're making sure that you're mentoring rather than coaching. So the first key difference is that mentoring is what we refer to as directive. So as mentors, you're going to be directing and guiding your mentee, whereas coaching is what's referred to as non-directive. So if you're ever involved in a coaching relationship, it's a lot more self-reflective. So in this case, with mentoring, mentors, you should be directing and guiding the mentee. The second key difference is that mentoring is often longer term. So the wonderful thing about this is you can build up that rapport with your mentor or mentee between now and November, possibly even longer if you want to extend it past that period of time and you're both happy to do that. Whereas coaching, on the other hand, is often short term. So if you ever get involved in a coaching relationship, it might just be short term. Third key difference is that mentoring doesn't really have qualifications. So what's qualifying you to being a mentor is having that knowledge, those skills, and the experience that you have. Whereas coaching does have qualifications. So as a result of that, mentoring is usually voluntary and coaching is usually paid. So that's the definition of mentoring, and the key difference is just to get us started to make sure we're all on the same page as we are going through this. In terms of what we stand to gain from this, and hopefully the benefits that you'll all see from this, I'm going to start with some of the commonly seen benefits for the mentee. So first and foremost, for you as mentees, it'll provide you with advice and guidance to achieve your goals. This is all about what you want to get out of the next 6 months, what you want to get out of your career, about learning from someone who's got experience. So this process should provide you with that advice and that guidance to achieve your goals. Quite closely linked to that, it also provides additional guidance on professional development. What do we mean by that? Well, professional development is often referred to as things like climbing the career ladder. We don't necessarily know the best way to go about doing that, but this is where a mentor is often in a really good position to be able to guide and advise us. It's an additional guidance on that professional development. It's also a great way of improving your industry understanding. You may well be mentored by somebody who's in a different country, a different organization, a different part of the industry. That can help open up to other opportunities and other ideas and other insights as well. So that can be really, really valuable. It also provides an opportunity to learn new skills. You'll learn new skills both directly from your mentor, but your mentor might be able to advise you on things like podcasts that you could listen to, or books that you could read, or video guides that you could go through. And then finally, a regularly seen benefit for mentees, it's a great way of increasing your confidence. hopefully over time we can see that confidence naturally and organically building. So those are 5 key reasons why I think everybody should be mentored, and hopefully benefits that all of you as mentees on the call are going to see as we're going through this process. For those of you who are mentors, there are some benefits for you as well. So hopefully you will see all of these as well. First and foremost, it's a really good way of reinforcing existing knowledge. That knowledge, the experience, the skills that you've built up in your career, sometimes you might need reminding of it. Mentoring is a really good way of reinforcing your existing knowledge. It's also an opportunity to learn from our mentees. The learning goes both ways. So as a mentor, be open-minded to what you can learn from your mentee. And for mentees on the call, don't be afraid to share your insights with your mentor as well. It's a great opportunity to improve industry understanding as well. So just like the benefit that we covered off for the mentee, it's the same benefit for you as mentors. Mentoring somebody who's in a different country, in a different organization, a different part of the industry, that can be really, really valuable. It's a great way of improving interpersonal and leadership skills as well. So you might well be asked quite challenging or thought-provoking questions as you're going through this process, and building up those interpersonal skills can be so valuable. And then finally, and I hope this is the case for everybody, one of the benefits that we see a lot is it can be incredibly rewarding. Being able to share knowledge, help guide and advise your mentee, that will hopefully be a really rewarding experience for you as mentors, and hopefully the same for your mentee as well. So we know what mentoring is now. We know what the benefits are. What do we do to actually mentor or be mentored effectively? Well, I've tried to break this down to 5 key points that are really important for the mentee. So the role of the mentee first and foremost. The first thing I would say, and this starts before you've even had a meeting with your mentor, that's to consciously start your mentoring journey. Some people think that mentoring starts when you have your first meeting with your mentor. Actually, for mentees on the call, it's really important that you take some time. It doesn't have to be a lot of time, but 10 or 15 minutes out of your day, just to think about why you'd like to be mentored, what your goals and objectives are, and what you're hoping to get out of this process. Because if you can work that out ahead of that first meeting with your mentor, it's going to put you in the best possible position and the mentor in the best possible position as well. So at the start of this, mentees, consciously start your mentoring journey thinking about your goals and your objectives. It's then about arranging an introductory meeting with your mentor. Now, the introductory meeting is sometimes referred to as the contracting meeting, and this is going to form the basis and the groundwork for your mentoring relationship. So you should be setting the expectations in here about things like how often you're going to meet and talking about things like confidentiality. You should also, in the introductory meeting, make it really clear what your goals and objectives are. Once you've arranged that introductory meeting, mentees, it is then your responsibility to schedule regular meetings. Don't wait for your mentor to ask for that next meeting. If you've agreed to meet once a month, mentees, make sure you're proactively getting that meeting in the diary with your mentor. You're giving them plenty of time and notice to do that, and you're making sure that those meetings are happening. So mentees, your role, your responsibility to make sure those meetings are happening. What's also really valuable with those meetings is to set some SMART goals and meeting agendas. Now, meeting agendas don't have to be pages and pages long. I'm talking 3 or 4 key bullet points, 3 or 4 key things that you want to discuss with your mentor. Because if you've got an agenda, it's just going to make sure you're making the most of that time with your mentor. You can really focus in on getting the most knowledge and experience and insights from your mentor, and ultimately have the most effective conversation. And what's also useful is setting SMART goals. So you've got goals that you're working towards that you can talk with your mentor about and get their insights and learnings on. And the final thing, as I said, I've broken it down to just 5 key things to bear in mind as a mentee. Ask questions. This is all about learning from your mentor. It's all about learning from their insights, learning from their experiences. So asking questions like, what would you have done differently here? Or I've got this challenge coming up, I'm not sure how to approach this. How would you approach it? Asking questions is really valuable and a really good way of learning from your mentor and their experience. There are 5 key things, as I say, that if you are doing as a mentee, you are setting yourself up for success. For mentors, I've got 7 key things that you should be doing to set yourself up as a successful mentor. First and foremost, in that initial introductory or contracting meeting, be really clear and honest. So talk about your time commitment. If your mentee is saying, can we meet once a week, and you can only commit to one meeting a month, then that's absolutely fine, but just be really clear and honest up front about what that looks like. Be clear about what your experience is, be clear about how much time you can give, be clear about where you feel unable to support as well. No one's expecting you to have all of the answers as a mentor. So if there's anything you don't feel comfortable about or aren't sure about, just be honest and upfront about that. The second one hopefully sounds obvious, but important just to highlight: be willing to share knowledge, guide, and encourage. There are some people that think that knowledge is power, and as a result of that, they hold on to that knowledge. They don't share it with anybody else. Actually, what that does is it limits your ability to build on your existing knowledge. So it's within your own interest, mentors, to be sharing that knowledge that you've got, but it's what mentoring is all about. So consciously go into those meetings, sharing that knowledge and guiding and encouraging your mentee through this process. The third thing is to provide practical and concrete advice. Essentially, don't guess. Don't use your mentee as an experiment to try something you haven't tried yourself. Make sure that you are providing practical, concrete advice based on, as I say, first-hand experience. Provide insights as well. It's really important to provide insights not only on the good things and the successes, but also the things that haven't gone so well. I think we always like talking about the successes. We always like talking about the things that have gone well in our careers. But as a mentor, if you can share the things that haven't gone so well and the learnings from those, that's actually going to help your mentee to progress and develop even more effectively. So provide insights, yes, on the positive, but also on the negatives and what you've learned from those, so you can help your mentee to avoid making the same mistakes that you might have made yourself. If you're part of an organization, and I shouldn't need to say too much more about this one, but role model your organization's values and behaviors. It's just going to put you in the best possible position and the best possible light as you're going through this process. And the penultimate thing I'd say is to make sure you're challenging and questioning openly and positively. There are some people that think that mentoring is all about praising and congratulating the mentee. Whilst that's good to do from time to time, where you're going to be even more valuable is if you challenge and question in an open and positive way. The really basic and fundamental example of that would be saying to your mentee something along the lines of, well, that's good, but have you considered doing this? So make sure you're challenging and questioning in an open and positive way. And then finally, provide support and reassurance during change. Change happens the whole time. It can happen on a global scale. It can happen on an individual scale. Maybe you're mentoring somebody who's new to the industry. Maybe they've moved into a new role. Maybe they're new to an organization. Wherever that support that change is going on, try and make sure you're providing that support and reassurance where you feel comfortable doing so. Those really are the 7 key things that as a mentor, if you are doing, you are on the right track. There are, however, 6 key things that are important to avoid making mistakes on and doing as you're going through this process. So I'm going to go through some potential pitfalls now to hopefully avoid. And some of these are made with the best of intentions in the world. Just important to bear these in mind as you're going through this process. So first and foremost, problem solving. It's not your role as a mentor to fix your mentee's problems. Mentors can sometimes feel like it is, but I promise you it's not your role, it's not your responsibility. Instead, your role as a mentor is to help your mentee to identify any problems, quantify them, encourage reflection on them, and ultimately as a mentor, what you want to be doing is providing advice and guidance to your mentee so that they are equipped to fix the problems they're facing. If you don't want to do the work for them, you want to make sure you're giving them advice and guidance so that they can do the work and they can fix their problems. The second thing is performance evaluation. Just remember that you're not their manager, you are their mentor, and that's a very different role. As a mentor, you are there to help your mentee to work towards the goals and the objectives that they have. So that's the difference between mentoring and management. A manager is there to ensure that someone in their team is completing the work that's set for them by the organization, whereas mentoring is all about the mentee's goals and objectives. So you shouldn't be evaluating day-to-day work or passing judgment on that. The third thing is cheerleading. Try and be conscious of mentees going to you for a bit of a pat on the back. Mentees try and avoid going to your mentor for a bit of that praise and congratulation. You may not know the full detail. So absolutely acknowledge growth, say well done, but afterwards try and take it back to a position of challenging and questioning in an open and positive way. The fourth thing is personal investigation. Make sure you're not treating this as a therapy session. Chances are you're probably not a trained or qualified psychologist. Even if you are, that is not what mentoring is about. So just make sure that this doesn't become a sort of personal investigation, psychology or therapy session. I'm sure nobody's going to do this next one on the call, but it's just important to highlight as well, and that is private ego trip. Mentors, as wonderful as your career is, make sure you're not spending an entire hour talking about your own career. Make sure you're focusing on the mentee, make sure you're focusing on their goals and their objectives. So limit your story to building rapport, and then always bring the conversation back to the mentee's goals and objectives. This isn't an opportunity if you spend an hour talking about yourself. And then finally, make sure the mentoring relationship doesn't become mentor-led. Absolutely, you can go the extra step when establishing the mentoring relationship. You know, mentors, you can get those first couple of meetings scheduled in, but afterwards, the objectives, the activities, they should all be led by the mentee. The mentees, make sure you're driving this forward. So there we are, 6 commonly made mistakes, 6 common pitfalls in mentoring, and hopefully now how you're equipped to avoid making those mistakes. What I want to do now is just go through a quick guide to a successful meeting before I go into the platform itself. So first thing that goes into a successful meeting is scheduling of those meetings. So that meeting should be taking place roughly once a month. Anything more than once every 2 or 3 weeks, and it's probably overkill. You're probably not having the opportunity to work towards your goals and objectives outside the meeting. Equally, anything less than 1 meeting every 6 weeks, and you're not going to build up rapport effectively. So try and aim for monthly meetings with about 2 weeks notice where possible. It's going to give you both the opportunity to prepare for it. Mentees, be mindful that your mentor might have a busy diary and a hectic schedule. So make sure you're giving both parties plenty of notice when scheduling those meetings in. Equally, I know we're all busy. I know things happen at the last minute. Try and avoid rescheduling wherever possible. Not meaning to guilt trip you, but try and think about how it might feel for the other party if you're constantly rescheduling. So just be mindful of that one. The second thing to bear in mind with your meetings is the location and duration. You want to be having private, confidential conversations. You want to make sure there's as little distraction as possible. If you are meeting in person, and I appreciate that this is a global program, so the chances are probably quite slim, but if you are meeting in person, then make sure there's little to no distraction. If you're meeting virtually, just make sure you're in a quiet space where you can really focus on those mentoring conversations confidentially. And in terms of the duration, you want to aim for 45 to 60 minutes for a meeting. Anything less than 45 minutes, and you're probably not going to get into the discussions properly. So whilst it might be tempting just to schedule in a quick 15-minute check-in, try and make sure you're having a full 45 to 60-minute long meeting. The third thing is clear objectives. Clear objectives absolutely go into a successful meeting. So in advance of each session, mentees try and plan and agree of your objectives with a mentor. As I said earlier, try and set a bit of a meeting agenda. And an agenda should typically include 3 to 4 key points. And those first and foremost are review of actions and learning from the previous session. What did you discuss in the last meeting? How's the last month been? Secondly, exploring and reflecting on the key areas of focus going forward. So those are your goals, your objectives, what you're hoping to get out of the next month or so. The third thing is to review the ongoing value of the mentoring arrangement. So are you both happy with the way it's working? Do you maybe need to meet slightly more frequently or slightly less frequently? Talk about that together. Make sure you're both having transparent conversations about what's working and maybe in some cases what's not working so well. And then agree the actions. And if you can, confirm that next meeting there and then. Get that next meeting locked in both of your diaries so you can work towards it. The fourth thing to bear in mind, and the penultimate thing that goes into a successful meeting, is obviously a quality conversation. Now, how do you have a quality conversation with your mentor or mentee? I believe it comes down to 2 points and 1 sentence. And the first part of this sentence, open, transparent, and honest discussion. Everything you discuss with your mentor or mentee should be confidential by default. So try and make sure you're having open, transparent, and honest discussions. The second thing is to make sure you're allowing each other space for exploration and reflection. It can be easy to spend an hour talking back and forth. It can be really valuable, though, to just pause from time to time and say to your mentor or mentee, what do you think about this? Or do you need a minute or two just to think about the right response? Equally, if you're asked a challenging question, you're well within your right just to take a step back and say, I need a minute or two just to think about the answer here. There's no right or wrong. Mentoring is a wonderful opportunity to explore different options available, to explore those avenues and to reflect on them as well. So really use that time. It can be such a wonderful way of just taking a step back from our day-to-day lives, really focusing on our own career development as the mentee or that of somebody else as the mentor. So use it as an opportunity to do that. And the final thing, actions and reviews. Mentees, you need to be aiming to complete any agreed actions. If you set yourself some goals, make sure you're trying to work towards those. Use your mentor to hold you accountable to them as well. So if there's something you really want to achieve, tell your mentor about that, and that'll hopefully help encourage you to achieve that. And mentors, your role should be really just to track that progress. So write a couple of notes or a couple of sentences each month that you can go back and reflect on. And that is a key, quick guide to a successful mentoring meeting. What I'm going to do in a moment is go through an overview of the platform and some of the key functionality. But before I do that, does anyone have any initial questions they want to put into the chat or the Q&A about the mentoring side of things itself? And I'm going to take silence as a good sign. I don't think we've had any questions in the chat so far, so hopefully this has all been clear, but we will have plenty of time after the platform as well for questions as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring up a demo of the platform itself, and I'm going to show you it from an individual experience once you have registered. So once you've registered, if you haven't yet formed a mentoring relationship, you're going to see a list of proposed mentoring matches for you. Now, as well as these suggested matches, you can load more, or you can go to the search page to search through participants on the network. Just being optimistic, and for the purposes of today's demo, assuming that we think that Will looks like a good suggested mentor, we can request an individual. We can set some expectations and a bit of an introduction in here as well, and this will pre-populate from what you've entered in registration. It's important just to highlight that the account that I'm on today is a demo account. So all the profiles you're going to see are dummy profiles, but otherwise everything is the same. So once I request an individual, they will receive an email letting them know they've been requested. So mentors, keep an eye out for emails coming through from Pushfar into your Outlook inbox or Google inbox, just letting you know about those requests. Once you're then in an active mentoring relationship, you will see a homepage similar to this. The orange box at the top here is going to advise and guide you about the most important next action. Below that, you can then see if you've got an active mentoring relationship already. So if you've got a mentor, you will see them here. If you've got a mentee or mentees, if you're mentoring more than one person, you will see them here. No other mentor or mentee can see who anyone else is mentoring or being mentored by. So that is confidential and reserved just for the program managers. Equally, things like private messages and meeting agendas are strictly confidential, so not even the administrators see those. What I want to draw your attention to is the View Details button. So if we click on that, this opens up our mentoring management panel. Within this, we can send each other a message. We can view one another's profile. We can log our notes and objectives on an ongoing basis. We can see any upcoming or past meetings, and we can schedule new meetings into the platform as well. So within this, we can set up a Microsoft Teams or a Zoom or a face-to-face meeting or a video call with Pushfar. It will send calendar invitations out to Outlook, Google, and iCal calendars. So regardless of which calendar system you're using, it'll send you those invitations. We also have the goal tracking on the right-hand side, and this also appears on the homepage here. So mentors, try and set a goal each month that you're working towards, and set that and log that through the platform. Now, each of you will have your own profile page as well. So if you haven't yet done so, head over to your profile icon, make sure you're happy with your profile and the way it looks. Add a profile picture if you feel comfortable doing so. It is immediately going to make you more personable and approachable to others. And when you're viewing other participant profiles, you can send them a message. And if they're available and subject to their capacity, you can request them through their profile. Now, if you're not able to request them, it may be because either you've reached your capacity and you've got an outstanding request already, or the other party has reached their capacity. But if you're in doubt, you can always send a message. And as I say, we've got that search functionality where you can network and connect with fellow mentors and mentees within the RWSN. And then the final page I just want to draw your attention to is the resources hub. On the live version of the platform, we've got lots of different resources that are set up, things like mentoring guidelines that you can have a look through from time to time. It can be really valuable having a look through those in the few minutes before each of your mentoring meetings. And then on every page of the platform, in the bottom right-hand corner, we do have the support link as well. But anytime, if you ever have any platform questions or you need any support, Pushfar is on hand to support you. So you can click on the support link. We've got lots of user guides and you can raise an email support ticket at any time. But that really is an overview of the platform and its main functionality. I can see someone put something into the chat. Are there any other questions while I answer this one as well?
Well, I can see that in the chat we have mentors and mentees. I think the majority are mentees. According to what I understand, everything happens in this platform, either to book in the calls per se happening there, it's video call, and I can connect with my mentor, but also send messages to other people that I'm not in mentorship relationship.
That's correct. Yeah, so you can use it to network and connect with fellow people in the industry as well.
Great. We have a message over here from Pallavi. One of the challenges that my mentees and I saw was that the system takes RWSN as everyone default organization. I fixed mine, but still see on the dashboard that a lot of participants still have the RWSN listed. It's true. I also noticed this. Maybe this is something we have to raise to the platform.
Yeah, so I think that was the way that Melissa configured the platform in the first place. There is a setting to change that, so I will speak to her to make sure that gets changed. But yes, just make sure that if you have already registered the configuration the way it was, it has put everyone in as RWSN, so just make sure you're going to your profile and then changing that setting accordingly.
Great.
Any other questions?
There's a hand raised from Pallavi. I'm going to allow you to speak. Would that be okay?
Thank you very much for this information and informational session. I learned a lot. And thank you for answering that question as well. Is there a preferred browser to use Pushfar, like Chrome versus any other? Because a lot of time I see that that folks are not able to connect to the video meeting that we organize. They face challenges, so we had to do. I don't mind doing it outside of Pushfar, like on Zoom or Google Meet if it's needed, but I prefer using Pushfar because it's logged in the same place for everything to be stored in one location and everybody to use the same system. So that would be helpful to know.
Yeah, certainly. So we would always recommend Google Chrome. But actually, regardless of the browser, one of the main reasons why people might not be able to connect is if they're part of an organization and they're using a company or organization network and there are strict firewall restrictions. So that might be the reason they can't connect. And we're limited in what we can do to obviously get around that, because that's a security thing that organizations put in place. But we would always recommend Chrome. The other thing is you can drop into your Zoom, you can drop into your settings page of Pushfar a Zoom URL. So if you already know that Zoom works for you, you can drop that URL into your settings page. And then every time you schedule a meeting, you can just select that as well. And then I can see, so hopefully, Avi, that answers your question there. I can see there's a question from Taka, which is, I think the potential mentees may have difficulty to find the right mentor for them. What would you suggest in this regard? So the initial suggested matches should hopefully be the most relevant, and they look at the algorithm already. So I would say look at the initial suggested matches that you're seeing, and that should hopefully help that process.
That's great. I found the suggestions as well, and from many of the mentors available, I was hesitating because all of the profiles look so interesting and I wanted to connect to everyone. But yes, as a mentee, I can choose one mentor But as a mentor, how many mentees can they have?
So as a mentee, you can only have one mentor at a time. So Melissa and RWSN have set that limit. So you can only have one mentor at a time, but as a mentor, you can choose how many mentees you can take on.
Great, great. And how about if I'm wondering if you mentioned something in your presentation that is also the mentee, they're encouraged to participate, to be the starting point of what they want to do. They're the interested people in there, and they should look for advices from their mentor. They should be the ones that are more encouraged to participate in the platform. So what if in the case that the mentor doesn't reply all the way around, the mentee doesn't reply, what they should do, but they have a good relationship, what they should do in this case?
So if the mentor or the mentee isn't replying, I think, follow up a couple of times politely. They may be on holiday or they may just be very busy. If you're feeling like you're still not getting that response you need, then you could always look at a potential other match or other mentoring relationship. I think it's really important to have open, transparent conversations up front to try and avoid that happening. But if you feel like you're really struggling, I know Melissa can help as well. So you can get in touch with RWSN and they can support on that too.
Yeah, that's true. Any question, any kind of assistance, support you need, please contact the RWSN Secretariat. I will leave in the chat the email from Melissa, and she will help you with anything you need, or you have questions, or something is not working for you. Please contact us. We'll be happily help you there. Any other questions? Someone says, Takur says, I would like to suggest that RWSN find a way to encourage potential mentees who may still be not connected with RWSN so far. I'm just exploring.
So I know that Lisa is kind of working with mentees on that as well at the moment.
Yeah, many mentees are not connected with mentors. They should look for a mentor and make the request. Is there something that you have observed that can help with this? What is your advice, Ed?
I think the main thing is to sort of send messages, connect and network with people and see what works best. Yeah, on that side of things. And then I suppose the only other thing is that if mentees, if you're hesitating to request someone, I would say go for it. All the mentors are mentors on the platform because they want to mentor people. So there's no reason not to request somebody.
Mm-hmm. Please feel free to raise your question or any comments in the chat box.
So if you'd like to, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so if you'd like to change your profile from being a mentor to a mentee, then just on the home page of your profile, you'll see a link on the left-hand side that's called Preferences, and you can click on that link to change your profile type.
Any other further questions? is there a deadline to find a mentor? The program is open until November. The idea is that you try to connect with someone and take advantage from the platform from April. Well, right now we are in May, from May until November. So as soon as possible, you can do it the best. However, there's no deadline to find a mentor. It will depend now of the availability of the mentor. You know, the mentor can be already taken by other mentees. So I would encourage you to check out the platform as soon as possible and connect with the person that you believe is the right fit for you. Yeah, the platform seems very user-friendly. I just connected yesterday with my mentor. We already speaking, already organizing our first call. But it seems very straightforward.
Fantastic. That's certainly the aim.
Yeah. Okay, any final thoughts or question? Please raise your questions here in the chat. Okay, and it seems there's no more questions. So maybe we can close this session before plan. Great. So thank you all for joining today. We hope this was very useful for you. And as I said, this program is from April until November. I would like to remind you, if you have any problems, you have questions, you need advice or support, please contact the RWSN Secretariat. You can contact Melissa. I left the email address in the chat box. And thank you so much for joining today. Yes, that's all. Thank you so much. I hope to see you again. Thank you so much, Ed, for this insightful presentation. And thank you all for joining.
Thanks, everybody. Happy mentoring.
Bye-bye. Take care.